This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Alan Cochrane. The A-Team are back. You can text our show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via the Absolute Radio website. Okay.
Very high-pitched on email there, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah, but you know what? Because email's becoming an archaic activity, I felt I wanted to give it a bit more zing to try and raise it up a bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Frank, quickie, Alan's back from holiday and he's got that,
He's not back from holiday, is he?
Well,
I've spent some time in Brighton.
he's been away, but he's got that glow. You know when someone comes back with the glow?
Oh, yeah.
Sunburn.
Yeah.
Slight sunburn.
Okay. How long were you in Brighton?
Tuesday till today.
Ah. I thought you just went down for a gig, but you made it into
I've got
a trip.
a couple of nights there.
Oh, it's like when you get when you play Bournemouth in the Premier League and you go down there for the weekend and have a bit of that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very similar to that.
Nice idea. I
feel like we're ignoring the elephant in the room.
Well, I feel
somewhat.
we're doing that thing.
That's very flattering. Thank you.
Or something to say about that.
I'm afraid at home you won't get that. You won't get that joke to have explained.
It's one of those jokes that you'll appreciate further down the line and it'll be worth so much more.
There was a thing that happened last week. I think we had an email, didn't we, about
We did.
We did.
I was in absentia last week.
You was? What's it like? I've never been there. Absentia.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not as good as Brighton.
I imagine it's run by some tin pot dictator. Absentia.
Darren Anderton,
A
apparently.
bit like
runs it.
who's the what's the name of the place in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
Yes, it's like one of those Moldavia.
Yeah, one of those
yeah.
places. Moldavia's real estate.
Yeah, Moldova was in Dynasty.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to not distract myself from this email, but I do have an anecdote that I may pop back to at some point during the morning. I'll bookmark it.
We can open another tab.
As I say, I wasn't here last week. Dear Alan, the DME, and in this instance, particularly Mr. Skinner, long-time reader, first-time writer. I've just been listening to the podcast. It's Tuesday today. This arrived. A mere 3 days since you broadcast the show, but in many ways a different world altogether. I've just heard a comment from Frank, which I feel needs to be brought up. On Saturday, this may have been a throwaway comment that most readers will have forgotten, but could make the next show very interesting. Frank mentioned a T-shirt he'd been gifted, something to do with the Ashes, and he pointed out that we weren't doing so well in our then current match. So poorly, in fact, he said he'd do the next show wearing just that T-shirt should we win. I'll just leave that there. Praise, etc. 814.
And he's not alone. Although you might be feeling quite alone this morning because Ollie Wilton got in touch with us. If we win this match, I'll do next week's show in just this T-shirt. I look forward to seeing how the 1996 Rear of the Year is holding up.
Oh, nice.
I'm afraid it's broken away from its moorings.
When we had a studio webcam, that could have changed the complexion
I can't wait to see Em's face when Frank does next week's show in just his T-shirt. Feel sorry for Emily and Alan after what was promised. It goes on.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. When we won that game, and
cricket.
Yeah,
you reached for the arsenic.
I had several dilemmas around the game because I didn't actually see the glorious ending live.
Oh,
unlike
because I was lost in Tottenham. I was driving round and round Tottenham looking for somewhere to park. That was how I celebrated it.
Okay.
I said
on the radio,
but
good,
when I got an alert saying England have won, and I remember thinking, I bet people didn't even hear me say it. Was such a casual remark. How could I have possibly thought that about radio? You know, sometimes we get texts saying, "Oh, I like that joke that the other two are completely," and they pick on the slightest throwaway. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
So you made a promise.
Hoisted.
I made a promise.
But I know the producers just handed you a fez, the miniature fez. I do hope.
Yeah, but it won't fit in there. Have you got a 6 and 7/8 at the last count?
God's sake.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
There's some other interesting things going on this morning, though, Frank.
Or not going on, e.g. trousers.
Hey. E.g. Trousers would be a great name for a character in Oscar Wilde short story.
My favourite is the GIF we got sent of Donald Duck's
Yes, well, Donald Duck...
rear area.
Donald Duck used to wear a sort of naval tunic with nothing on his lower part.
Sort of a cropped bolero sailor jackito.
Yeah, and there used to be a comic, a legendary circuit comic called Malcolm Hardy, who sadly is no longer with us. He drowned in the Thames, in fact.
Yeah.
And he used to do a routine about Donald Duck, pointing out that in cartoons, when Donald Duck had a bath, he used to put a towel around his waist, even though for the rest of his life he just wore a short jacket. So it's something about the mirror, I think, that gave Donald Duck a terrible feeling of guilt. So anyway, so then I was in a situation where I think Emily contacted me, and Emily came to my house, actually, that's how desperate it was, and said, I've had loads of tweets about you having to do it in just a T-shirt next week.
It was like a Cobra meeting.
Well...
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, come on.
So but again, thanks.
Oh, yeah.
So what I did is I got in contact with our...
legal department.
No, well, sort of, with our esteemed leader, I think they...
All right.
Whatever the term they use.
Our divine esteemed leader.
Paul Sylvester, who's like Mr. Absolute in many ways. And... he said to me, "You can," because we have three. We have not just Emily, but two female members of staff. And I don't know. I thought, well, I don't know what the situation
Three
is.
ladies.
Exactly.
They like it.
Well, that was my question.
We can't assume that.
Yeah, exactly. Three little maids from school. Three little maids.
We're probably making this work, but can I just say, I got involved, as they say in the East End.
Yeah.
And I did, Frank was ever so sweet, Al. He was very conscious of not putting anyone in an uncomfortable position. My response to this was, nice try, mate. Your face is on the tea towel now. You're doing it. It's all done. But he was conscious. I did discuss it with the women folk here. We were absolutely set on him doing this.
But I did get a directive that, in fact, I couldn't completely carry out my thing. So I had to wear pants.
All right.
And actually, the esteemed leader said they had to be boxers. It was an interesting.
Right.
Oh.
Interesting distinction.
Introducing an element of jeopardy, I would say.
Yeah, but briefs. What about if I always wore briefs?
Yeah, okay, I'm feeling a bit sick. I said you could do it. I didn't
It just seems wrong wearing boxers for a cricket bet.
Good point.
But anyway, I went with the boxers.
Well, obviously, Gary Winston Lineker has set the precedent here.
Yeah, but he basically wore football shorts, in my opinion.
Okay.
Whereas I've just put my usual boxers on.
Have you?
Oh, they sound nice.
But I would have gone briefs, because briefs was nearer to the brief, so to speak.
Yes.
But,
Frank, the fez has been placed on your desk again.
Yeah, I know. Am I going to get my face slapped during the music? Don't mention it again. Anyway, it's so I'm in fact I'm here in my T-shirt and pants. That's how I'm doing the show this morning. It's as close as I could get in the current climate to carrying out my
Picks
my
or it
promise.
didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, you can certainly do pics. That's fine. I think I have to do my penance,
Your
as we
domain.
say in the Catholic Church.
Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So anyway, I'm in my boxers and my T-shirt this morning, and that's it. And
so presumably for the uninitiated cricket person,
Oh, yes. We should explain.
There was what they call in the sport world an epic comeback, was there?
There was.
Yes.
There was an epic comeback. Yes. To be honest, when I said that, things weren't that bad. They were just bad. They got worse.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, it really looked...
Certainly did this morning.
If you want like a pretend knows nothing about cricket person, you could use me as that sort of
Well, if you wanted a real one... Given that when I was taken to Lord's with my father, I ended up playing with the rubbish.
Yeah.
I was so
told
bored.
You not to call the working class ever again.
You're so horrible. That's so not entirely true.
Well, let me give you
tell us what happened.
Just to give you a general sense of how big a deal it was. I missed it live for family commitments reasons and whatever. And one of the things I did the next day was I listened to they do a podcast of Test Match Special, which is what is it now, 5 Live Extra show. And I listened to that. I went out up into the shops listening to that, and I cried. I actually physically cried in the street because I was so moved by what had happened. It was basically when one person stands up and changes the world. It was like that.
Wow.
So, it happened with, Genghis Khan, Gandhi, and now Ben Stokes.
Oh, yeah.
Goodness me.
He's in good company, isn't he?
And TMS, Test Match Special, does it does it very well. I know the BBC can be horrible to women and old age pensioners, but Test Match Special is exceptional. So just to give you non-cricket then, a bit of it. So they needed 70-odd runs to beat their arch enemies, Australia.
Okay.
And there was only 1 wicket left. So all Australia had to do was get someone out and they'd won. And they'd won the Ashes, they'd won the whole thing. It was all over. And Ben Stokes, probably the best all-rounder in the world is at one end, so that's good. At the other end is a bloke called Jack Leach.
Oh, yes, I've heard of him.
Now, Jack Leach is a bowler and not known for his batting. He did get 90-odd against Ireland, but everyone thought, well, he'll be out in seconds. And the great thing about him is that it really reminds me of your precursor, Gareth Richards.
Right.
If Gareth Richards was bald, he'd be like... And he's got that same manner. He's a very sort of funny but very mild-mannered, gentle...
Right.
A bloke you can imagine might have a train set.
Oh, yeah.
So he was, at one end you've got a bloke oozing testosterone, Ben Stokes, and at the other end this bald bloke in glasses who looks like he's come to ask Ben to keep the noise down at night. And they did it. And he faced, Jack Leach faced 15 deliveries and he got 1 run. And there's a fabulous... On the night after they'd won, they didn't go home. They stayed in the dressing room for ages and, just soaked it up. And then they went out onto the pitch and the players sat around on the pitch and Jack Leach reenacted his 1 run for them. There's footage of it.
Can I say that's the sort of thing Frank would have done? What I liked about this, boys, is that it felt very much like one of those feel-good British films. Just the narrative arc of it, which would definitely have Risa fans in it. I don't know if there are any more takers for who might star in it, but we know the kind of
Toby
thing...
Jones is already a shoe-in.
Jim Broadbent, maybe?
Oh, yeah, I would think
and
so.
Risa fans would have clutched the trophy. I'm not the ones that actually compete. You know what I mean, the metaphorical trophy, and said "You beauty" in a Welsh accent and kissed it at one point.
Yeah, who would play Ben Stokes?
Oh,
Charlie Drake.
8, 12, 15.
Stop it, you don't know Charlie Drake.
Of course I do.
My references are really... I need to update.
Charlie Drake is one of my favourite all-time comedy heroes, I'll have you know.
Hello, my darling. That was his catchphrase, which I think was picked up by someone in EastEnders, a middle-aged woman. Charlie Drake famously was so unpopular and so horrible to people. Obviously, I can identify with it. that they did a thing at the London Palladium when he had to be thrown through a bookcase because he did all his own stunts. So they just set up a bookcase just like balanced with no screws in it, and then during the afternoon break, 2 of the crew went in and screwed it all up. So live on television, they threw him into the bookcase and it knocked him unconscious.
Can you write that down?
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Can I just say, we were talking about Charlie Drake earlier. I mean, we won't talk about him for too long, but I was just looking up some information about him. We found out he was how tall, Frank?
5'1", did you say?
Yes.
I mean, I remember him as short, but
And he appeared on This Is Your Life and was given the Red Book at...
Not the London Palladium.
Yes.
Same as me.
But in a rehearsal room. He didn't get stage, okay?
Okay, only the greats were done on This Is Your Life. That's not true, actually. They used to have weeks where it would be like a post lady from the Outer Hebrides, one of those.
Oh, did they?
You know where the honours list, when you look at it and you think, oh...
Yeah.
And it's someone who's done real, genuine good work.
Someone at school who's actually helped people.
Yeah,
Waste of an episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever been on This Is Your Life?
I haven't, no.
I haven't, so has Frank. Not as a subject, as a guest.
Yeah.
So hurry up, love.
Yeah.
Well, it's gone now, hasn't it?
Gone, but not forgotten. Not on this show, that's
It
for
would
sure.
be possible to bring it back, wouldn't you? Who would host it?
Have a meeting about it.
You should host
You could
it.
get this away.
Listen, this is how Doctor Who started.
I don't think
On-air begging.
people don't associate me with life.
My worry about Frank doing it is he would just...
You could do This Is Your Death and just talk to comics about awful gigs
I'll
they've
tell
had.
you what I
Like a
did
sort
think.
of spun out
He would be
version of
such a
Stony
git.
Ground.
Can you imagine Frank doing This Is Your Life? And then you did what? Why did you leave your wife?
When I was on there, I remember thinking, because I was done at the London Palladium, as you say, when Michael Aspel was the host, and when I was done, I remember thinking this would be a hell of a show if you did a late night version and you brought on ex-girlfriends and people you'd upset in the past.
Well, that would be good.
I mean, obviously they'd had to be the O2 if it was people who I worked with who didn't like me, but yeah, I mean, it could be, you know what I mean, quite a hard... Because the truth is that someone's life is not just about the people who love them.
No.
Right.
It's a bit like... Have you read Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game?
No.
I think as the books progress, they have developed this idea of a person who goes to funerals and... The week before the funeral, they go around and interview everyone who knew this person, and they put together people who didn't like them and everything. They put together a complete picture of their life, and then this neutral person speaks at the funeral and does like an objective view of who this person. It won't catch on.
No, I don't think so.
Well, you get your head punched.
Don't do it at mine, just so you know.
Yeah, people don't want that.
No, I don't. Let's face it.
Okay.
We've actually had an email.
Speak.
We've had an email entitled The Git Up Challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Frank, Emily and Alan. I was introduced this week to the Git Up Challenge and wondered if news of it had found its way to you yet. I heard about it from my husband and I immediately thought Frank would surely be a shoo-in to take part in this. You can imagine the disappointment when I found out it was not a challenge for people to be gittish, but a dance challenge on TikTok, the social media platform currently in vogue, to a song called Git Up. Bit of a missed opportunity. Maybe you could start a rival Git-based challenge. Long-time reader and... Oh, I don't read that bit.
No.
Jennifer.
It would be a tough bit, though, wouldn't it? I mean,
You think?
just the guests. What would the guests be like on that? I mean, doing a show with guests, you know, you get enough awkwardness. But if you brought on if you only had gits on there, it would be...
You're right. It's one of those ideas that seems appealing, but now you've drilled into the detail. Somewhat gittishly, if I may say.
I once did a thing with Michael Winner, and he arrived.
Oh, yeah.
And the director said, so you need to come in this... I said, wouldn't it be better if you come in from that direction, because it's going to... And Michael Winner sort of goes, well, obviously it would. I mean, and then he said to the director, I think you better let Frank direct it because you obviously don't have any clue. And he really tore into this. Of course, I was tempted to say, calm down. I thought that was, you can't throw people's catchphrases back at them.
No.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
So, we weren't mid anything, were we?
Don't believe we were.
I went to the fair.
Oh, yeah.
Very medieval.
Yeah.
With a Y?
With a wench.
No, there was not with a Y. A proper one with an I. There was no craft for sale.
I prefer a fair with an I.
By the way, when you go to a craft fair, have you ever developed a method for moving away from a stall where you've looked at something?
Oh, it's very difficult.
Do you not just make a sort of an assertive eye contact and go, thank you?
No. I feel I have to do a ... as if I'm coming back.
Yes, Frank, you do.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll have a bit of a look round.
Yeah.
In brackets, we're not coming back. I don't like it. It's overpriced. Close bracket. I'll have a bit of a look round. That's right. It's great. And when I walk away, I'll have a little look back to give them hope.
The faux last look. You know, on what I do, it's like a speed dating, isn't it? Because I go over, I did it recently at a food market, Frank. I was doing that. And it's because it's so personal. Normally you don't meet the manufacturer direct.
No.
Yeah, it's better with a third party in between, isn't it?
I'll keep that to yourself. But there was a woman with some lovely mushroom pâté. And it was... Okay, I realised as soon as I said that.
No, I love it.
But it was lovely. She made it with curd cheese. It was her own business. Absolutely lovely.
You know what they say, love your curds.
It was lovely. But, you know, because she was saying it was a recipe, my brother first made it when we were children, I couldn't not buy it.
Oh, you see, I'm upset by it, but not enough to spend money on. They're often, all that stuff is always overpriced. The craft fairs and stuff. You know the badge they've made out of old dog teeth, all those things.
Yeah,
you go over, it's interesting. They say, yes, it's just £18.50.
Yeah.
And you want to throw it up the wall and smash it, but you go, oh, okay.
Right.
Anyway, we're going to.
We're just going to have a little browse and we'll be back in a minute.
They always make you feel as if your purchase is the difference between their business continuing.
Yeah.
And all that. And
did you buy anything then?
Anyway, I went to a fair, which is not like that. We have to win things.
Oh, right,
It's
one of
much
those
more. I
fairs.
went to a proper fair.
Oh, excellent.
Here's a question for you. What is the etiquette for bumping cars?
Oh.
There's this weird idea where the man, it's usually a man, suggests that you all have to drive around in a circle going in the same direction. But it is nothing unless you just turn around and drive headlong into someone, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
I would love to go on have a bumper car experience where people just drove in an orderly fashion.
Well, I think, you see...
I would enjoy that enormously.
Isn't that just driving?
Yeah, which would be
Not
nice.
necessarily.
Not for everyone now.
All right.
It's interesting because I said to the woman after who was selling the tickets, I said... you see, I think it's rubbish, isn't it, if you all just drive around? You need to drive. She said, well, there's two views on this. Bumping cars or dodgems. And I thought, that's a good point. It's actually in the semantics there.
Right.
If you see them as dodgems, then the idea is to avoid all that.
She's really thought it through. I like.
Yeah.
What I don't like about them is when I look up and I see that big hook at the top, which attaches it to
I'm
the
happy.
ceiling.
I wish I had one of those in life all the time. It makes me feel safe. But I let Buzz drive, my 7-year-old, and he is so obsessed with driving headlong. Is there a bit when everyone started going round, he just turned around and drove it into the wall. And I said, This is just, it's seeing the other person shaken. Surely it's the joy of it. You know, I've got feelings. But I'd love to know if there is, because it's one of these weird things in life where everyone pretends that the way to do it is to go around in a circle. But it is nothing unless you break the rules.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
We've had some missives in regarding dodgems and bumper cars.
Oh, yeah. Have we got to the bottom of the actual etiquette?
Well, one of our readers, Jazza, says bumper cars until the age of 11.
Oh.
Well, so...
And then it becomes dodgems.
Yeah, well, someone else says...
Does that mean that's what you call them, or are you allowed to
I think
bump
it's
them?
suggesting that up until that age, because Neil Shepperson says try to avoid people in dodgems and try and bump them in bumper cars, Frank. Surely
But
the
they're
clue
one
is in
and
the
the
question.
But they're one and the same vehicle. That's my point.
Are they always, though? Are they always
it's a
called
rule
that?
set change, isn't it? You're suggesting it's like snooker and pool or something,
Yeah.
aren't you?
Except, and I'll tell you what I think it is. I think that no one really adopts the rule. But if you didn't have a rule, then the bumping would feel less rebellious. You'd feel less of a crazy maverick character if you were supposed to openly bump. So we have to live in this facade in the bumping car world that everyone's going to drive around in a thing, and it's just it's so phony.
I suppose, I loathe bumper cars and dodgems. I think it might be the
I love
worst.
hydrangeas.
Madonna.
Yes, it is.
She said that when a fan gave her hydrangeas.
Who said it?
Madonna was given hydrangeas.
Madonna is such
By
a
flowers.
spiteful and pleasant person. Do you remember when that man
It's
had
one of my
met...
favourite quotes. I love hydrangeas.
And she was heard, Frank, whispering. She didn't realise she was mic'd up, and she turned around to her aide at the press conference and she went, "I loathe hydrangeas." And she just said, "Oh, thank you so much."
But do you remember when there was two gay men on Graham Norton's show, and they got these dolls and they'd put them in different costumes of Madonna through the ages that they had made themselves. And they obviously
lovely.
adored her. And she was going, "Oh, well, I certainly wouldn't have," and all that stuff. And you thought, "Oh, please," is what I thought.
I know.
But
You love bumper cars.
Yeah, the reason I don't like them is, I think, fairly self-evident. They're vile, but I think what I don't like is the sort of
Concussion?
look. Well, exactly, the concussion.
Minor
The sort of
concussion.
smug look that the drivers give you.
Oh, yeah.
Ha ha, got ya. And I think I've never got along with them because I always look horrified and upset when they bump into me. I don't play the bumper car game.
I see.
And the sort of we're all in this together. Plus, I just always feel a bit concussed and headachy. Why would anyone do that? It's
I must say I'm a bit of a fan.
Really? Do you like the waltzer?
I don't like the
Oh.
waltzer. I once had a very bad experience on the waltzer when we were the only ones there. It was in what's the seaside bit near Edinburgh? called?
Portobello?
Yeah, Portobello. And because I was on with three ladies.
Oh, yeah.
They like it.
The guy, because there were three ladies, decided he was going to give it super spins on the waltzers.
Oh, I hate it when they do that.
And it was so... We were going so fast I could barely read his tattoos, the man running it. And when I got off, you know when people say my legs turned to jelly? Or it was like I got off and I could barely stand. I felt so sick and...
Horrible.
I just
like
don't
the
want to
waltz.
put my life in their hands.
I don't know if one could die on the waltz. I suppose your neck could snap like
I
a
think you
carrot.
could. Yeah.
A carrot.
If it was thrown, if you were thrown back and
Yeah.
you weren't wearing a brace,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be great to put a? I remember going on the teacups at Disneyland.
Those I like.
And even that made me feel a bit nauseous. I think my fairground ride days are behind me.
Top 3 songs played at fairgrounds. Always Love Cats, The Cure. Oh, they love a bit
that's
of
a good
Love
one. But I
Cats.
tell you what
on
has
Time.
Right on time, Alan.
But you know
Cochrane,
what
you're
has
doing
recently
so well.
entered? What's recently entered?
Go on.
That Shotgun by George Ezra. I noticed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, that has completely took its
Has it?
place in
Especially on the shooting range.
Al, we've gone a bit 80s.
If you had a
fairground.
shotgun, that would be easier, wouldn't it? Can I use my shotgun? Hold on, I'll check with Jean. Oh, all the side come out of a big cuddly Bugs Bunny.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So here's the thing. I did Bake Off Extra Slice this week.
Oh, how was it?
Free cake?
Yeah, so they never like me. I never feel the audience like me.
They don't like you.
I don't know. But anyway.
Are you mean to them? Did you do
No.
anything mischievous?
No,
Oh, right.
I was lovely.
That's a problem I have. It's a failing.
Yeah, I tell you what, someone had made a cake with cinder toffee.
Ooh.
Oh, that
Now.
sounds nice.
I associate cinder toffee with very much with my childhood. I know you get crunchy cinder toffee,
Oh, yeah.
but that uncovered cinder toffee.
Oh,
When
yeah.
my dad went to Blackpool for the illuminations on the pub trip.
Oh, hang on, I'm going to settle around the fireside. I love a Frank's dad story.
Well, he used to come back with cinder toffee, and I'm just thinking if kids now hear of cinder toffee, I don't think they know what a cinder is.
No.
And I couldn't think of it. I think it's called cinder toffee because it's got the same texture as burnt out coal, hasn't it?
Oh.
But no one uses coal anymore, so I don't know what else has got that texture apart from my spine at my age.
I don't know, cinder toffee. I wouldn't know what to expect really with that, to be honest.
Well, you wouldn't know what to expect.
No, I mean, is it sort of toffee in cinders?
Well, it's toffee with a cinder texture.
I don't really eat cinders often, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, you
I don't have a sort of taste experience to
Good
compare
point.
it with. Do you
Good
see?
point.
Yes.
I mean, you might have eaten
But you
coal
can
more
tell.
often than me.
Well, I didn't eat them, but you could tell by the handling, their
Okay.
texture.
Yeah.
He also used to bring back a thing that I've never heard of in 20 odd years. He'd bring back a thing called tiger nuts. You aware of these?
I don't.
Oh, I have heard
They
of
were
that.
slightly stripy nuts
Uh-huh.
I have heard
and a
of that.
sort of chewy texture. Anyone? I know this is a bit Radio 2. But if anybody... actually, that's not true anymore. So I think Radio 2 has gone very up-to-date
yeah.
and modern.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas I'm
They'll be
drinking...
playing Shotgun.
They'll be.
Oh, they'll be playing Shotgun. Ah, yes.
So anyway, meanwhile, back in the Bake Off studio,
Yeah. Well, that was
was that it?
That was basically... I went on and...
you don't need them.
You know what I did? I did my Chrissy Hind Don't Get Meringue. Do you remember that?
Oh,
yeah.
don't get
A joke I've always
meringue.
been very fond of.
Did they not? Oh, someone said earlier it didn't. We got a missive in saying they were upset that it landed on stony ground.
Well, I'll tell you how it is. Bob Moncoast told me many years ago that he had a joke.
Drop some at there, Frank.
Yeah. He had a joke that he used to use to test the audience.
You needed
Oh, I'd love an
a
audience test
dustbuster
joke.
on permanent call if you're going to be hanging out
Yes,
with us
exactly.
two, okay?
So the joke was, I really love Marks and Spencer's do these really lovely animal-shaped biscuits, and I absolutely love them. However, I bought a tin, and it said on it, "Do not eat if the seal is broken." And he said, "There you go." He said, "Now, if they laugh on that bit,
Yeah.
I know it's a good crowd. They're really going to be with me. If I have to go, and would you believe it?
Right.
Then they're going to be all right. And if
Yeah.
I have to go, the seal was actually broken. It's going to be a night where it's going to be like wall climbing at the gym."
Thank God we
Yeah.
laughed at the right place.
Yeah, we passed
And
the
and
test.
I said, so I used to work for, I used to be the runner for Chrissy Hind. And Joe Brand looked at me and I real, I've never knew this. And I said, I used to send out for cake, and she didn't. I said, but she didn't want me to get meringue. That was the first try. That was pushing it. And I'd say, she used to say to, when that didn't work, I'd say, she used to say to me, don't get meringue.
And what happened
Nothing.
then?
And in the end, I had to go, don't get meringue. I went that far. Yeah. I mean, I was 2 seconds away from a diagram. But I'd have had to have done it in marzipan, which would have been messy.
Yeah.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
Okay. Have we heard from that which we refer to as the outside world?
We've had various missives in. One that has just caught my eye this minute,
You should be more
680,
careful.
which I think may end up becoming a problem. Hi Frank, only thing I can think of like cinder toffee would be bags of broken honeycomb chunks. Tony Prince, Andover, Hampshire.
I think.
And Julia in Wales says we always called it bonfire toffee, very dark glass-like toffee.
Oh, bonfire toffee, I think is that not a different thing, like treacle toffee?
It might
Well, this
be,
is what would have come in useful. When I was younger, one of my longest-held ambition for many years was to be a professor of sweeties, as I thought that was a job.
Oh, that's a
It
good
probably
job.
is
And I
a
wish
sort of a job
I think
for
it
someone.
probably is. Well, in a way, Margaret Thatcher went down that road as
She
a
did,
chemistry
yeah.
professor
Was
for
that
ice
right?
cream.
Yes.
She was.
She made
what did
Mr.
she
Whippy,
do?
I believe,
Because
she
there's a
created.
suggestion that she sort of invented ice cream, but it was around before then.
she
right?
I
Is it,
believe she
helps
suggested the sort of Mr. Whippy type formula.
Do you think that's what she was doing with all that milk? She thought, just give it to me now. I know you're upset, but if you give it to me now, I'll bring it back in a much lovelier form.
brilliant. Have you
New impressions.
Have you got a David Bellamy, perhaps? You
But
could
it-
do this, or a
But it's a
Prince Charles?
classic case of deferred gratification. Give me your milk, I'll
Yeah.
go away and I'll give you
Yeah.
ice cream.
And I'll base it on my hairstyle. This is what happened.
Yeah.
So,
Hi, Barney.
Trevon.
we've had some lovely comments as well in support of you. I mean, I say that like you're
Well, what
some
have I done
registered
now?
charity. Cheryl just points out, I watched you in Extra Slice. You were fine and dandy. Remember, the audience is cake eccentric.
Yeah.
He won't like fine and
It's
dandy. I
usually
know.
fine.
Oh, God, why did I read
Well,
that?
actually,
You were
Nugget.
fine,
Oh,
and also
God.
at the same level of comedy as the dandy.
Oh, no. Cheryl, you were amazing. Okay, next time. We've also had Maxine in Cos sunbathing. Bit TMI, Maxine. As a teen in the...
She's in a. Is there
No,
a
she's in
place
the-
called
Yeah,
Cos?
there's a place called Cos, Frank.
So is she in Cos or is she in a
She's
swimming
in
Cos?
Cos.
Oh,
Sunbathing.
I thought she was in a swimming Cos.
Right.
This is when
In
the comma
Cos.
comes in useful. I do
Yeah.
apologise. As a teen in the 80s, I was at a fair and stood on the side of the waltzers and stood too close and got knocked out by someone's head spinning on the waltzer.
Oh, wow. Because of FIFA rules, you'd have had to stop it straight away.
Yes.
Clash of heads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a slight change of subject, but 515 has texted with, I oft listen to your back catalogue of podcasts and enjoyed hearing the cockerel's birth on the show all those years ago. One of his first weeks, Frank and Emily were talking about a social engagement they had both attended that week. The aforementioned cockerel said, looking forward to joining you on some of these jaunts as I get my feet under the table.
Oh, no.
And then
so
he
sad.
says, it's the hope that kills you, Al. Love Lenny in Liverpool, which I think is a fantastic message.
Oh, dear.
Oh, Frank, do you feel guilty?
Oh, broken dreams. That I do. I feel
I'd
terrible.
actually forgotten I ever had those dreams. That's how bad it's got.
I'm really sorry. We really trod on those.
I'd forgotten as well. If I ever even registered them at all.
Do you know, we've never even pretended to invite. We've never even done the dodge and
Oh, no,
pretend.
to be fair,
No.
he does live many miles away.
He would always be welcome.
And I do
Look
get
at him.
about as well.
Well, always is a
Stunning,
big
he's
word.
funny. He'd be a lovely escort for us.
Tar.
Can I? I know.
Strangest compliment you ever had.
Yeah, a lovely escort. He's our motoring correspondent.
Frank Skinner,
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
And when I was driven in to town today, first of all I got in the car and the guy said, I said, okay, we morning, all that, and he said, you're set, and I said, yeah. He said, okay. He said, good one, Squire. And I thought, well, I haven't been called Squire for a long time. I thought he doesn't seem like the type of bloke who would use that. Steadily, took me about a minute to work out he'd said Golden Square, which is where we're heading. too. But anyway, as we came into London, the what I believe is now called the BT Tower.
Yeah.
Which used to be the post office. It'll always be the post office tower to me.
Oh, me too.
The post office tower used to be like one of the coolest, most sort of swinging London. There's one in Birmingham as well. How many are there? Are they in other cities as well?
8, 12, 15. How many post office towers are there?
Do you know of any others?
I don't off the top of my head.
I don't know.
Yeah. But certainly there's one in Birmingham, one in London. And that'll do it, won't it? That's covered in all the main cities.
Yeah.
And it said, you know, that there's a message centre. Because it used to be, I don't think it still is, it used to be there was a revolving restaurant on top of the post office. I mean, it was
that was a very 1960s thing, the concept of the revolving restaurant.
Well, the whole thing is very 60s, especially if you call it the post office tower. It really does make me think of Carnaby Street and all. Especially as this morning there was a message going around it that said, "Good morning, London." And that's such... I felt like I was driving into Radio 1 in my E-Type Jaguar.
Did it say feeling groovy?
That sounds good.
Yeah. Of course, when I got into the studio and took my trousers off, it felt even more like being at Radio 1 in the 60s.
All right.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
It seems to me that you lived your life like now. It seems to me, having recently been on a bumping car.
Oh, yeah.
Bumping car.
That's what we always called them in Birmingham. We didn't call them bumper cars. We called them.
That's a good, because we called them Dodgems. And did you call them bumper cars?
No, we called them Dodgems.
Oh.
See, bumper cars is a neutral statement because they have got enormous bumpers.
True.
Aye. And sorry, it's very, very hard to say. They have got enormous bumpers. But it did strike me that if your ordinary car had got bumpers like bumper cars, if you want to call them that, wouldn't that be good for road safety?
Yeah, not so good for the aerodynamics, I don't think. But yeah.
But that would slow people down.
Yeah.
I think we should think about that.
Stephen Burgess, I can't remember if I shared this with you. Do forgive me if I have, but there are worse crimes. What about when you spin the wheel so much that the car just loses its mind and takes you all over the place?
I don't know if I've ever tried that.
Oh, yeah, you must.
I like the idea of the car having a mind that it's capable of losing.
I think we all
I think it's...
anyone who's seen Knight Rider is liable to fall for that, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I've never tried spinning the wheel. What happens exactly?
Oh, it has a real, kerfuffle, the vehicle.
Oh, now I feel like I want to get on one this afternoon.
Gets yourself in a right old spin, doesn't it?
I don't want to wait.
So local, policeman. The vehicle.
Yeah, I don't think one vehicle can have a one vehicle kerfuffle. You're right.
I honestly think cars should have
Need
those
some other
bumpers.
people involved for it to be a kerfuffle. You are?
I think cars should have those bumpers. I suppose you'd get people riding on the back of their mates' cars the way people ride on the bumping thing.
Yeah, and it's
Also-
already going to be nightmarish once we have the automated cars and people realise that it's programmed to stop if you step in front of it. People aren't going to wait to cross the road, are they? They're
They
just
don't
going to walk.
anymore.
No.
I don't know what it's like in Manchester, but London, people waiting to cross the road, that's
Doesn't happen.
disappeared.
It's gone.
No, there's so
God.
much jaywalking. Stephen Burgess has got in touch again.
What?
Well, he's just... Oh, calm down, dear. I think he's listening closely to the show, which
Someone's
I like.
listening.
Yeah.
He refers to the post office tower. Always think of the Goodies episode when the giant cat attacks
yes.
the post office tower, which, when I watched it recently, was not 1/8 as funny as I remembered it as a child.
Well, comedy
Goodies.
has a sell-by day.
Yeah, I'd love a
Well,
bit
actually,
of Goodies.
we've had an email entitled Post Office Tower. Dear Frankie baby, bit over familiar. Did they know that before the Post Office Tower was erected? That's what it says.
Sorry,
Just reading it as it's written.
Did they then say after break lasses hours?
Did they know that before the Post Office Tower was erected, the tallest building in London for hundreds of years was is
What?
St Paul's Cathedral.
Shut up.
Did I know that?
I didn't know that.
Oh, well, I knows now.
From at Chris Wren.
By the way, the idea of having the enormous bumpers on the car does go against the road safety thing. I was talking to a bloke who'd been involved in a big research thing about road safety. And he said that the safer people feel, the worse they drive. He said that the seat belt meant that careful drivers carried on driving carefully and reckless drivers got a little bit more reckless. That was the evidence of the time. He said if you want people to drive well, the best thing you could do is to have a 6-inch nail sticking out the middle of the steering wheel.
Oh, wow.
Can't see anyone.
Wonderful idea.
I think Boris might force that through.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio. Absolute Radar. I'm with Emily Dean and Alan Cochrane. You can text it.
Hi.
You can text the show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, or email the show via the Absolute Radio website.
I'm just writing a list of impressions you've done today. Margaret Thatcher and Radar. That's what I've got so far. Have I missed any?
That show.
No, I think
Missed
that's
any
probably
Frank's impressions?
Can we just kick off things this hour with an email?
Well, sure.
I call this Retro Hour, so we're going email.
Okay.
This is from a long-time reader called Hannah. And I just want to remind you of something you did, which is very characteristic of you, Frank. You gave some advice. You know, I refer often on this show to how you can't resist sometimes giving people notes after they've done a performance.
Well, when I see a show, I sometimes think, oh, that would have been, if they'd have just done that, that would have been even, that would have got a laugh.
Yeah.
But it's hard to fight that back. I didn't do it with Al because Al is slightly frightening, as we know.
Well, actually,
Al
you
is
say you
the
didn't do it with me, but you've done it with me several times.
He does it with everyone.
I've done it. I did it with Gareth recently.
Of course you did. You did it with everyone.
But I would say that Alan is Ben Stokes to Gareth's Jack Leach. And he actually texted me this week saying, I did that thing and it went really, really well.
Right.
So thanks very much.
Well,
Al,
for someone bashful about it, you've given me several bits of advice.
Al,
I'm terribly
this is
sorry.
called reinforcement of bad behaviour,
Not
and I
that
won't
terrified
stand
at
for
all.
it. Listen,
Anyway, I also gave some post-show advice to Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yes.
Is he Lord Webber now?
Yes,
Why
Lord
doesn't he
Lloyd
call himself
Webber.
Andrew Lord Webber?
Oh, that's good.
Why doesn't
because
he done
he's
that?
quite
Why
class
do these
act.
people not have the ideas you have?
I
That's
don't
what I
know.
want to know.
I'll
Do you know
mention
what?
that to him
He's
next
going to be
time.
giving that as a note. Go back after Phantom.
Anyway,
Anyway, Hannah's got in touch.
well, I should give this background because what happened is I went to see The Sound of Music with the lady who won How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria.
I believe her name was
Connie Fisher.
Yeah. Which, can we just say, has been running a few years, though, as a musical.
Yes. But it was exciting because it was the first time they'd done it with like a reality star person. And anyway, I felt that they rushed the curtain call a bit, so I told him after. And as I said, can I say just one thing to you? He said, please don't. And then I did anyway.
But you've always been curious to know whether he would take this advice.
Well, his entire manner suggested that he was so outraged that I'd made a suggestion.
Yeah, which is absolutely reasonable
Yeah, totally.
on ALW's part. Hannah says, Dear Frank, Alan and Emily, listening to the podcast last week, I heard Frank mention the advice he gave Andrew Lloyd Webber about the curtain call for The Sound of Music, which seemed to fall on somewhat stony ground. I was in that production at the Palladium and can reassure him that ALW did in fact change the curtain call and we never knew why.
Splendid.
Thanks for getting us called in for extra rehearsal, Frank. Praise redacted as per usual. Long-time reader Hannah. Hannah, I would love to know what your part is part was in that production.
Yeah, me too.
I'm intrigued.
Also, when she thanks me for the extra rehearsal, is that because they get paid, or is it an ironic thank you?
No, it's ironic.
Yeah, because she was dragged in.
Yeah, she was dragged in. Because
You know what? I feel now that I've really affected something big. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I've changed history a little bit.
You know you've
Thanks,
had number
Hannah.
one hits. And,
I know, but there is something like
Thanks,
that.
Hannah.
You've been at football games where the whole crowd has sang your song.
That's true.
You changed an Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah, but you know what it is?
I
It's
know,
because
but it's something that I felt. I had a friend once who was in the army.
Wow.
And I know. And he was.
this is how you hold a bayonet.
He was in Berlin for the British Army, and he was near to the prison, is it Spandau, where Rudolf Hess
Oh, yes.
was. And he was on guard duty there. And he raised his rifle and he got Rudolf Hess in the sights of his rifle. Because Rudolf Hess would sometimes come out of his cell. They let him, when the British were in charge, they let him attend his garden and stuff like that. Russians were a bit stricter on him. And he said, I remember thinking, if I pull the trigger now, I'll go down in history.
Yeah.
All I've got to do is squeeze this trigger and that's it. He said he gave me a real shudder. I had to put the gun down because I felt like doing it. That's how I feel about changing.
Oh, for goodness
Andrew Lloyd
sake.
Webber's curtain call.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
I wanted to ask you about Ben Stokes' celebration news story, because you know they won the Ashes. You're aware of that? That's why
No,
you've
they
got
haven't won the Ashes.
They haven't won the
They,
Ashes.
they win the test.
What did they win a
They
test?
would have lost the Ashes if
Oh, they
they'd
would have
lost that test. What it means is that the Ashes are still up
Is it
for
the
grabs.
Oh,
third
so it
test?
continues.
Well, there's two left.
Ah.
Old Trafford and the Oval.
Yeah.
So they were down but not out.
Well, they were virtually gone because
Right.
it would have
see.
meant they couldn't because. Well, I'm going-
Basically,
anyway,
they're through to judges' houses.
yeah,
Oh,
they're-
yeah, I don't
stage.
get that reference any more than I get a cricket reference, to be honest.
they were almost all was lost, and then he
Right.
turned it round. Is what
I see. Anyway, there was a news story that he then celebrated by getting an Uber to a drive-through McDonald's and spending £55 on McDonald's burgers and filet-o-fish and other foodstuffs to share with his cricketing pals.
Can I stop you there for a second?
Please do.
Um,
Inject some common sense into this ludicrous news story.
Yes.
You know, we I think in Britain, well, not amongst the sort of the sophisticates I hang around with now, but when I was growing up,
Adrian Childs.
we'd say fillet, right?
Oh, yeah.
Fillet,
Filet of fish.
We'd say fillet, like
Oh.
if you got a fish fillets, stuff like we'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
And then only when McDonald's emerged with filet, did we all start saying filet? I never
Right.
say, and I still say fillet about other things.
Right.
Oh, I see, but you say fillet. I know
Fish
what you mean.
fillets.
Well, I based my... I think people tend to borrow the lexicon from the ad where there was... I don't know where he was from, the man, but he would say fillet or fish for my wife.
Yeah.
Do you recall him?
I don't.
He became a legendary character.
But
in
it's the
schools.
one area where I would say filet without
Yeah.
even question. Like remember when Nestle's chocolate suddenly became Nestle?
Nestle.
I do not.
Yeah, well, it's like it was sprung
I didn't
upon
know.
them.
Do you know why the filet o fish was invented, Frank? I think you can guess.
Is it because of vegetarians going to
No,
McDonald's?
it's something a bit closer to your home.
Oh, is it for Catholics on a
It's your
Friday?
lot.
Oh, is it?
They had to, I believe, when the business started, they had to accommodate Friday. They noticed they had no business on a Friday because of all your lot.
Well, I didn't think we dominated that one. McDonald's sounds more like, Presbyterian.
Well, you
don't
were
know what-
customers. Anyway,
So
sorry.
do you think Ben says filet? He will do, won't he?
Probably.
He said 55 quid on McDonald's.
Also, to his credit, he did get an Uber. If you remember when West Bromwich
Yeah.
Albion were in Barcelona, they stole the taxi
They
cab.
stole it.
Yeah,
At least he. Yeah.
and just left it outside the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's getting better, Ben.
Yes.
We won't talk about what Tony Adams, how he behaved.
He said a great thing, like he said, didn't he? He said there was filet of fish and quarter pounders flying everywhere.
Yes.
Oh, that does sound great.
I'll tell you what that made me think. Do cricketers have a predisposition to catch burgers that are flying through the air better than the other sportsmen, or dare I say, the general population?
Oh, definitely.
Well, you say that. I did some lovely catching at Frank's this week.
When he was throwing cheeseburgers at you.
No, we played a ball game with Buzz. What's that thing called? Oh, it was great.
I don't know what it was. He won it on the fair. It's like a ball that expands in midair and then
It was very complicated though, because he kept saying make the throw harder, but not so hard I can't catch it.
No, it's very prescriptive on the throwing.
But we
don't you think? Can I ask? You're a nutritionist.
I'm not.
Alan.
I'm not a nutritionist or a motoring correspondent.
You're the closest I know.
Barely a comedian.
Oh, come on. You know, we are told in life often to listen to our bodies.
Oh, yeah.
The instinct tells us, that things
what
like...
you crave.
Yeah, that things like, you lick a wound because there's something in saliva that actually helps the healing. But that we're all, if we just listen to our instincts. Now, I don't know about you, but all my instincts tell me not to eat salad, but to be in a situation where there's filet o fish and quarter pounders flying everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at him, he's an incredible specimen of a human being. Physically, he's amazing. And yet, what we know of him is the night before he was eating pasta in his pants at 10 o'clock when his wife turned up at the hotel.
Really?
Nothing wrong with being in your pants. So.
He also started the day with 2 coffees.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And he had two Yorkies with biscuit and raisin, which I think sounds a bit southern softy to me. What's that with traditional Yorkies?
What I like for Yorkies is up until, I think about 7 years ago, I think they had a slogan which is not for girls.
Yes.
Really?
They did, yeah.
That's the Yorkie
Wow.
way. It was the lorry driver snack, wasn't it?
It
was, yeah.
But didn't he have knock-off Nando's?
What does that mean?
You know...
Does it mean stolen?
No, it's like, those, like the equivalent of Dixie Fried Chicken, so it'll be something like... I've seen one called Peri Peri.
Right.
I think there's a Nambo's as well.
Oh,
with a red cockerel.
So there'll be one called like
no offence.
Grandos.
There is one, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, see. So it wasn't even. He didn't even go authentic. No.
It's like Peri Chicken House.
It just suggests to me that if all this stuff, if it can turn you into someone as physically amazing as Ben Stokes, that maybe the dietitians have got it wrong.
Agreed.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
If we can just jump back to a previous topic that we've covered. We've got a lot of plates spinning on this show.
Well, I'd like to do that as well, so come on now.
Email Tiger Nuts and Burning Coal. Rather pedantic.
2 of the best golfers I ever saw.
Rather pedantic, but Frank said Tiger Nuts were sort of striped, but they were more wrinkled than striped.
Well, they were wrinkled.
A bit like a prune, but obviously not as large.
No.
As for Frank saying no one burns coal anymore, I do, and I have 7 open fires, but unfortunately no servants to clean out the cinders.
7
I
open
may
fires?
find a
Are you
life
a
one day.
Satanist?
Yeah. Eccentric millionaire
Alistair
listening to the
Crowley.
show in a country pile, as they say.
Yeah.
Call me.
Wow.
Mick McDermott
Mick McDermott
has got in touch. Sounds like a wrestler. I like
But
him.
he has a fillet of fish on a Friday.
He's what was it Michelle McManus said about Daniel O'Donnell?
Big fan of the Catholic Church.
Goes mental.
Oh, he
goes
goes-
mental for the Catholic Church. Mick McDermott says, I once went on the Dodgems at Nottingham Goose Fair and the tattooed bloke in charge was so fearsome we all drove round in a single file circle for 5 minutes.
But he was probably contemptuous of that because he believed in violence in all its manifestations.
Well,
I think we
exactly.
can judge him on that.
Nottingham
surely.
Goose Fair, that's been going a while, hasn't it?
Hasn't it?
Oh,
Long
I think
time.
Robin Hood used to go to
I
that.
think so.
I bet he drove straight at people.
Yeah.
The rich, anyway. He
Only
drove at
the rich, yeah.
Yeah, and he gave in to the poor. Gave way to the poor. It's a misreading of it.
Yeah.
We were discussing the Ben Stokes story. For anybody just joining us, Ben Stokes on temporarily reprieving the England cricket team.
Yes.
Went for a McDonald's in an Uber and spent £55. The bit I like about this story...
It's a lot of McDonald's, isn't it? By the way?
A lot of McDonald's and a lot of largeness in this story. I like the fact that he spent £55, which is a lot for McDonald's. McDonald's has got like Big Macs.
I think he had other cricketers with him.
Going
Not so
large.
much largeness as largesse.
No, I think
Joe Root.
as if to make it even more big, they went there in an Uber.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, Uber.
I'm glad they didn't
It's a word
drive.
for Uber.
I also like
Yeah, sorry.
Frank's just got it.
I'm sorry, Al.
when
let
when he
you
got
do it.
home, his wife said, "Oh, so we've been to McDonald's, have we?"
Wow.
Which again was very sort of wife in the British biopic.
Exactly.
Who would be played by? Who are we going to go? Maybe the nice lady in Gavin and Stacey, the blonde lady.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe a Jane Horrocks. Mm-hmm. But anyway, she replied. I like that she did the wife thing.
No, what's great about that is the bloke has come back from one of the greatest innings of all time, and the first thing she says, "I've been to McDonald's." But that's it. Got to keep his feet on the ground.
Yeah.
So it reminded me of the big eating feast and having the knockoff Nando's and the Yorkies.
Yes.
Do you remember Barfly, that Mickey Rourke film, which I've
do.
always loved, when he's in for a fight. And so he breaks into someone's flat and eats everything in their fridge for fuel pre-fight. And he's literally opening packets of like raw meat and just eating them.
Brilliant.
Oh, man. We've all done it.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
When Ben Stokes, let's hope this day is a long way off, when he finally passes away, do you think the headline will be Ben Croaks? Is that how low the tabloids will have gone by then? How many Andy McNabs do you think he's got?
That he's read?
Yeah.
Oh, I just think most of them.
Or do you think? Oh, is he like an Andy McNabb?
I have no idea, but he must like an Andy McNabb.
Favourite film? I wonder. Well, Al, you're quite
Born
good.
Identity.
You're so
Shawshank
good at
Redemption.
this.
Well,
I'm sorry, Al. I'm giving this to Al.
Okay.
He's got it. He's got it.
The Flashman novels.
He's probably too young for Rambo, isn't he? So it'll be the Born
No, Born Identity is the millennial version. That's very
Have you
good.
ever read any
brilliant.
Flashman novels?
No, but I know a few people that rave about them.
Yeah, I read one once. It was really got lots of history in it.
People love
But
them.
it's based on the school bully from Tom. I mean, if you're going to get a
Oh,
spin-off.
you like a school bully?
Yeah, I don't. But
He
you don't
doesn't,
get-
by the way. Don't write in.
You
does.
don't get many spin-offs based on the school bully. There was no Gripper Stepson.
We
sitcom.
have rights
Another
too.
gap in the market uncovered by Skinner.
Frank, the much neglected section of society, the school bully.
Exactly.
Can we please talk about Ricky Hatton while we're on the subject of sportsmen and diet?
Hitman.
Yeah.
Hitman, Ricky Hitman Hatton?
Yes.
Well, he was.
Oh, okay. Well,
I suppose he
he's
always
no
will be.
longer. Yeah, he went on a holiday to Mykonos this week. He was with his girlfriend, who apparently is known affectionately as the Fun Police. He calls her the Fun Police.
Oh, that is brilliant. Come on.
All right, but PC Brigade won't like that. Feminists choking on their falafels.
I have to say, she hasn't always been rigorous in her policing. Nevertheless.
She prefers a laissez-faire attitude to policing. But did you see, Al, he posted on social media, he was doing updates about his holiday, and it was a bit strange because the newspapers then reported on it. I'm not saying he was promoting the resort necessarily. I would never suggest that. But it did say in the news report, with the airport only 3 miles away, these luxury villas are very close to the centre, and it's the perfect spot to see the island in all its glory. Now, that feels a bit odd to me. I'm just saying.
Right.
But you wouldn't promote a resort by saying it's stupidly expensive.
No,
would
he
you?
didn't eat the food there, you see. He ate it at a restaurant.
We should explain what happened.
We should. Al, over to you.
He ordered some food. It was Kobe beef ribeye. Kobe is, I think, the cow that gets like posh beer and a shoulder massage and stuff like that. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they give it a lovely life, so the meat's nice. So they have
I
lovely
will
life.
eat that. I don't want to eat an animal that's had a better life than me and many of my friends. I don't think that's fair.
I mean, your class war.
Maybe that's the only animals we should eat. That we eat out of bitterness.
Well, that's making me. Well, I don't want to say that, but if something terrible happens and I'm ever on a desert island, who should go first? I mean, I'm just saying.
Anyway,
good luck to the aristocracy.
Well, I was at a.
I'm going to them first.
I was at a posh restaurant recently, and on the bill it said rare breed pork chops, and I thought, well, don't bring that up. Don't bring that up. That's put me off ordering it. Don't mention that it's a rare breed pork
No, that's
chop.
what puts the price up. How much was the steak, Al?
It turned out to be €920, £834.
£834.
Can we just say hats off?
That's £1,500 after October the 31st, by the way. Okay.
Can we just quickly say hats off to all the tabloids for avoiding the headline mistake, expensive mistake?
I think you'll find hats on.
Oh, very good.
You can keep your hat on.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
We've just received another bit that I think is important because of the many spinning plates of this show, entitled BT Tower. There's still a revolving restaurant at the top of the BT Tower.
There?
Available for private hire and use for BT events. Great views so long as it's not too cloudy. Sarah, brackets BT employee, so she should know.
So you couldn't... Because I did a charity phone-in thing there once.
Of course you did.
Yeah. But not
Yes,
just
I remember
me.
that. I think you and Adrian did it. Was it a telethon thing? I loved a telethon.
It was, I think Artira was in there, Poppy Delavine.
Poppy Delavine. Nearly.
Yeah, she was there.
Frank, so this Ricky Hatton...
Hold on, can I ask a question about the Ricky Hatton?
Sure.
He ordered this steak.
He ordered.
He always
gets
goes to that. He ordered it. He ordered it.
I know. I'll tell you exactly.
What did they give him the ladies' menu? Do you remember that?
For the fun police.
The ladies' menu for our younger readers is there used to be a menu you could get with no prices on.
Still have it.
That one was given to the lady.
They still have it at certain old-fashioned
But
clubs.
you wouldn't give it to the hit man, surely.
Well, the fun police wouldn't have that.
No.
Ricky said, I just ordered it, didn't look. Ha ha. The bill came and the fun police started laughing. Imagine if that was just your name. You'd had no say in it.
It worries
Is it on her bank account?
There's an element of the booby about it.
God bless. TFP. I wouldn't want that as my... I mean, I bet she gets... That's her name now.
No. But I sense, though, you have warmed to it.
I know. I'm coming round
There is
now.
something brilliant about it, even though it's obviously terrible in some other aspects.
He also had he spent £450 on a bottle of champagne, which I noticed the Sun didn't question.
Yeah. That wasn't a clerical error. That was just a choice.
I mean, he was known as Ricky Hatton during his
Was he?
career.
Yeah.
Because he used to do this thing. He was light welterweight.
Mm-hmm.
So was he, yeah.
So in order to fight, you'd have to be, about 10 stone?
Right.
That could be wrong. But anyway, yeah. And so often what fighters do is they let themselves go a bit, in between.
They have a
fights.
phrase that they call their walking around weight. They walk around it.
Yeah, well, I would know all this.
Oh,
obviously.
yeah, we'll
I know
get to
quite a
that.
few people that would talk about how they walk around at a certain weight.
Yeah.
Well, Anthony Joshua looked in lovely shape when we met him.
Well,
He's probably more disciplined. He probably walks around at his fight weight.
yeah,
Like-
but the
It's a
thing
waste
is,
on us. You should have met him.
Ricky wasn't in the same postcode as his fighting mates during that.
Yeah.
He incredibly would just... he would put a lot of weight on.
Pile on the pounds.
And then get it all off again, ready for the fight.
It's a shame.
So I'm not surprised that he's ordered some big steaks.
He loves a steak. Well, the most expensive steak I ever ordered, I got into a little bit of trouble.
This would have been a good texting.
Most expensive steak you ever ordered.
Yeah.
I went to a very expensive restaurant. I took Beyonce's PR out to dinner, and he had expensive tastes, unsurprisingly. Mm-hmm. The steak cost, I think, about £69.
Whoa.
Person he was with ordered one. 150 notes on. I can't afford those prices. I knew it was expensive because Chris Evans was in the restaurant, and they brought it over with oohs and ahs on a big tray.
Oh, wow.
And Chris Evans looked as if to say, "High rollers."
Wow.
I couldn't afford it.
I've got nothing to bring to this conversation.
Well, I'll
if
tell you
it's
what,
about the
what have
most
you spent,
expensive
Frank?
steak you've ever ordered.
I'll tell you what I
couldn't
have
afford-
got to
Not
bring
with
to
that.
it. Apart from the first posh restaurant I went into, I ordered steak tartare, well done. But I went out with Kath for her birthday last week, and we were sitting in a very nice restaurant, Rock House. Really, the food's fantastic.
Oh, lovely
yeah, it's
choice,
brilliant.
sir.
But I did look across at her about half an hour in and say, I don't know why we bothered with this. Do you neither admit we don't like posh restaurants? Isn't it just an enormous faff? And she said, yeah, I'd rather just stay in or go somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, should we just do that from now on? And she said, so that was it.
Saved a bit of cash there, Al.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, it's a lot
idea.
of faff.
Is a thing you say
I don't
to
care.
save the money.
Yeah.
I don't care. Anyway, thanks for listening to us. And if the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. Now get out.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.